Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys, 2016, Round 4. Unlike most names here, Prescott was not a first-round pick. Dallas found him in the fourth round of 2016 after whiffing on other quarterback options, and while he became a long-term starter, his career has been polarizing. Here's the controversial truth nobody wants to admit. Dak is the most overrated quarterback of the last decade. Prescott burst onto the scene as a rookie, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year and stabilizing Dallas after Tony Romo's injury. Since then, he's put up strong regular season numbers, over 29,000 passing yards and 200 touchdowns, but postseason shortcomings define his tenure. In 7 full seasons, Prescott has just 2 playoff wins and has often struggled in critical moments, including costly interceptions in elimination games. While not a bust in the traditional sense, his inability to elevate Dallas in January leaves fans questioning his ceiling as a franchise quarterback. He represents a different kind of disappointment, productivity without ultimate results. Tua Tagovailoa, Miami Dolphins, 2020, Round 1. Miami drafted Alabama quarterback Tua Tagovailoa 5th overall in 2020, believing he would be the franchise's savior after a decorated college career. But his NFL tenure has been defined by injuries and inconsistency. Here's the brutal reality. Tua makes Ryan Leaf look like a model of durability. Tua battled hip and ankle concerns coming out of college, then missed time with rib and hand injuries early in his career. Concussions in 2022 raised serious questions about his long-term durability. The guy gets rattled more than a baby's toy and has the pocket presence of a deer in headlights. While he has shown flashes, leading the league in passer rating in 2022, he has also struggled against elite defenses, often looking limited outside of scripted plays. Miami passed on Justin Herbert, who became a star for the Chargers, a decision that looms over Tua's career. Meanwhile, Tua can't stay healthy long enough to prove he's not just Tyrod Taylor with a better college pedigree. Though still productive at times, his health and ceiling remain major concerns, keeping him from fully justifying his draft slot. Johnny Manziel, Cleveland Browns, 2014, Round 1. The Browns drafted Texas A&M quarterback Johnny Manziel 22nd overall in 2014 after his electric Heisman-winning college career. Manziel's improvisational style and charisma made him a star in college, but his NFL tenure quickly unraveled. He spent his rookie year mostly on the bench, struggling in brief appearances with 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Off the field, his immaturity became a bigger story. Late-night partying, lack of preparation, and clashes with coaches eroded any trust in his future. He spent more time in Vegas than actually watching film, treating the NFL like his personal fraternity and Cleveland like his safety school. By 2015, Manziel started just 8 games, going 2-6 with little progress. Cleveland released him in 2016, and no other NFL team gave him a shot. Attempts to revive his career in the CFL and alternative leagues failed. Drafted ahead of Derek Carr and Odell Beckham Jr., Manziel remains a symbol of hype outweighing substance in modern draft history. Kareem Hunt, Kansas City Chiefs, 2017, Round 3. Kansas City found incredible value in Toledo running back Kareem Hunt in the 3rd round of 2017. As a rookie, he led the NFL in rushing with 1,327 yards and scored 11 touchdowns, appearing to be a star in the making. But Hunt's career with the Chiefs collapsed after a 2018 incident in which video surfaced of him assaulting a woman in a hotel hallway. Kansas City cut him immediately, despite his on-field production. Hunt later resurfaced with the Cleveland Browns, where he became a rotational back, but he never recaptured the dominance of his rookie season. For the Chiefs, the pick is remembered less for his talent than for how abruptly it ended in disgrace, leaving Kansas City to move forward without the dynamic offensive weapon they thought they had found. Zach Wilson, New York Jets, 2021, Round 1. The Jets selected BYU quarterback Zach Wilson, 2nd overall in 2021, drawn to his arm talent and off-platform throws. Expectations were enormous, but Wilson's career has been a disaster. As a rookie, he completed just 55.6% of his passes with 9 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Year 2 was worse. He was benched multiple times, criticized for poor leadership after deflecting blame, and finished with a passer rating of 72.8. By 2023, the Jets had traded for Aaron Rodgers, and Wilson was demoted to backup. Across 3 seasons, he posted 23 touchdowns and 25 interceptions, failing to show progress. Drafted ahead of Justin Fields and most painfully Micah Parsons, Wilson's inability to handle the demands of New York made him one of the league's most glaring recent busts. Trey Lance, San Francisco 49ers, 2021, Round 1. San Francisco shocked the league by trading 3 first-round picks to move up and draft North Dakota State quarterback Trey Lance, 3rd overall in 2021. The 49ers gave up more assets for Lance than most teams spend on their entire offensive line, only to watch him ride the bench. Viewed as a high-upside prospect with limited college starts, Lance was expected to develop behind Jimmy Garoppolo before taking over. Instead, injuries and inconsistency defined his tenure. He played sparingly as a rookie, then broke his ankle early in 2022, missing the season. By 2023, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant himself, had seized the starting job, and the 49ers traded Lance to Dallas for a 4th round. Across 2 years in San Francisco, Lance attempted just 102 passes, throwing 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Considering the massive draft capital spent to acquire him, his short and unproductive stint stands as one of the most damaging miscalculations in recent NFL draft history. Jeff Okudah, Detroit Lions, 2020, Round 1. Detroit selected Ohio State cornerback Jeff Okudah, 3rd overall in 2020, billed as a shutdown defender with elite athleticism and technique. Expectations were high for a team desperate to fix its secondary, but Okudah's career never took off. As a rookie, he struggled in coverage and allowed multiple big plays before an injury cut his season short. In 2021, he tore his Achilles in the opener, sidelining him for the year. Though he returned in 2022 with modest improvement, the Lions traded him to Atlanta in 2023 for just a 5th-round pick, a stunning drop in value for such a high selection. Injuries and inconsistency prevented him from developing into a reliable starter, and he never lived up to his top 5 draft status. Passing on future stars like Justin Herbert only magnified the disappointment. JaMarcus Russell, Las Vegas Raiders, 2007, Round 1. The Raiders drafted LSU quarterback JaMarcus Russell, 1st overall in 2007, captivated by his 6'6", 260-pound frame and one of the strongest arms scouts had ever seen. Russell had an arm like a cannon and the work ethic of a sloth on sedatives. His Sugar Bowl performance, 332 yards and 3 touchdowns against Notre Dame, cemented his status as a top prospect. But the problems started immediately. Russell held out into the regular season before signing a $61 million deal with $32 million guaranteed. On the field, he was unprepared and inconsistent. In 3 seasons, he threw 18 touchdowns against 23 interceptions with a 65.2 passer rating, struggling badly with accuracy and decision-making. Stories surfaced of his poor work ethic, including infamously returning watched blank tapes of film. By 2010, Oakland released him, ending his career after just 25 starts. Despite repeated comeback attempts, he never returned to the NFL. Russell remains one of the most infamous draft busts in league history. Josh Rosen, Arizona Cardinals, 2018, Round 1. The Cardinals made UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen the 10th overall pick in 2018, hoping he would be their long-term answer. He entered the league with 5-star pedigree and confidence, famously saying the 9 players drafted before him were mistakes. But Rosen's rookie season was disastrous. 13 starts, 3-10 record, 11 touchdowns against 14 interceptions, a 55% completion rate, and 45 sacks. His 66.7 passer rating ranked among the league's worst. Arizona gave up almost immediately, trading Rosen after just 1 year when they drafted Kyler Murray 1st overall in 2019. In return, they received only a 2nd round and a 5th round pick, underscoring the collapse of his value. Rosen bounced around the league but never regained a starting role, last appearing in 2021. Missing out on future MVP Lamar Jackson in that same draft adds to the sting. Christian Ponder, Minnesota Vikings, 2011, Round 1. The Vikings reached for Florida State quarterback Christian Ponder with the 12th pick in 2011, hoping he would stabilize their long-troubled quarterback situation. Ponder entered with questions about durability and arm strength, but Minnesota bet on his leadership and intelligence. As a rookie, he showed occasional flashes, but completed just 54% of his passes with 13 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. In 2012, with Adrian Peterson carrying the offense, Ponder managed 10 wins and a playoff berth, but his own play remained inconsistent. By 2013, turnovers and inaccuracy sank his starting role, and he was benched in favor of journeymen and rookies. Over 4 seasons in Minnesota, Ponder started 36 games, posting 38 touchdowns, 36 interceptions, and a 14-21 record. After leaving the Vikings, he never started another NFL game. Drafted well ahead of his projected slot, Ponder became a symbol of Minnesota's repeated quarterback misfires. Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh Steelers, 2022, Round 1. Pittsburgh drafted hometown quarterback Kenny Pickett 20th overall in 2022, hoping he would carry on the franchise's tradition of stability under center. Pickett's college resume at Pitt included toughness and accuracy, but his NFL production has been more disappointing than a Steelers fan expecting another Super Bowl. In 2 seasons, he started 24 games, throwing for just 13 touchdowns against 13 interceptions, with a passer rating under 80. His inability to push the ball downfield and a tendency to check down stalled the offense, and injuries further disrupted his development. By 2024, the Steelers traded for Russell Wilson, effectively ending Pickett's shot as their franchise quarterback. Though still young, his time in Pittsburgh already looks like a costly misfire, particularly with more productive players drafted later in the same first round. Current NFL buzz suggests several 2022 first-rounders are fighting for their careers in 2025, and Pickett's already lost his battle. David Carr, Houston Texans, 2002, Round 1. As an expansion team in 2002, Houston drafted Fresno State quarterback David Carr, first overall to be their franchise leader. He entered with a strong arm and poise but was immediately thrown into a disastrous situation. Behind a porous offensive line, Carr was sacked an NFL record 76 times as a rookie and absorbed relentless punishment over 5 seasons. Though he flashed toughness and accuracy in spurts, the constant hits eroded his confidence and mechanics. From 2002 to 2006, he posted a 22-53 record as starter with 65 touchdowns and 71 interceptions. By 2007, the Texans moved on, and Carr spent the rest of his career as a backup in Carolina, New York, and San Francisco. While his raw talent was real, Houston's failure to protect him destroyed any chance of success. His career became a cautionary tale. Even top prospects cannot survive without support up front. Kyle Boller, Baltimore Ravens, 2003, Round 1. The Ravens, desperate for a quarterback in 2003, traded up to draft Cal passer Kyle Boller with the 19th pick. Baltimore believed his arm strength and mobility could stabilize an offense built around a dominant defense. Instead, Boller became the definition of inconsistency. He started 8 games as a rookie before injuries derailed the season, then returned in 2004 as the full-time starter, but failed to progress. Across 5 seasons in Baltimore, Boller posted 20-22 record, 45 touchdowns, and 44 interceptions, never achieving even league average efficiency. Accuracy issues plagued him throughout his career, and repeated injuries further limited development. By 2006, the team had acquired veteran Steve McNair, and Boller was relegated to a backup role. He bounced around briefly with St. Louis and Oakland, but never regained relevance. Trading significant draft capital for a quarterback who never delivered left Baltimore stuck in mediocrity. Justin Blackmon, Jacksonville Jaguars, 2012, Round 1. Jacksonville drafted Oklahoma State receiver Justin Blackmon, 5th overall in 2012 after back-to-back Biletnikoff Awards and a reputation as one of the most dominant wideouts in college football. On the field, his talent was obvious: 64 catches for 865 yards and 5 touchdowns as a rookie, but off-field issues quickly derailed his career like a train without brakes. Blackmon was arrested for DUI before his second season and later suspended multiple times for violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. After just 4 games in 2013, he was suspended indefinitely and never returned to the league. In total, he played only 20 NFL games, finishing with 93 receptions for 1,280 yards. His size, strength, and production suggested stardom, but persistent struggles with addiction cut his career short. For a franchise starved for elite offensive weapons, Blackmon's wasted potential remains one of Jacksonville's most painful draft disappointments. Kevin White, Chicago Bears, 2015, Round 1. Chicago drafted West Virginia wideout Kevin White 7th overall in 2015, envisioning him as a dynamic playmaker to pair with Alshon Jeffrey. At 6 feet 3 inches with blazing 4.35 speed, White's physical tools drew comparisons to elite receivers. But injuries derailed his career before it ever began. A shin fracture sidelined him his entire rookie season, and he fractured his fibula in 2016 after just 4 games. The pattern repeated, brief returns followed by setbacks. Over 4 years in Chicago, White appeared in only 14 games, catching 25 passes for 285 yards without a single touchdown. Despite flashes of athleticism, he never had the chance to establish rhythm or consistency. After the Bears declined his 5th-year option, White bounced briefly between the Cardinals and 49ers, but never revived his career. His tenure in Chicago is remembered almost entirely for injuries rather than impact on the field. John Ross, Cincinnati Bengals, 2017, Round 1. The Bengals drafted Washington wide receiver John Ross 9th overall in 2017 after he set a record-breaking 4.22-second 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. His speed created enormous hype, but his production never followed. As a rookie, Ross battled shoulder injuries and played in just 3 games without recording a catch. Though he flashed briefly in 2018 and 2019 with a handful of long touchdowns, he could never stay healthy or consistent. In 4 seasons with Cincinnati, Ross appeared in only 27 games, catching 51 passes for 733 yards and 10 touchdowns. By 2021, he signed with the Giants but made little impact before leaving the league. Drafted ahead of stars like Patrick Mahomes and Marshawn Lattimore, Ross's career is remembered as one of wasted speed, elite athleticism undone by injuries, inconsistency, and missed opportunity. Greg Robinson, Los Angeles Rams, 2014, Round 1. After trading down in the Robert Griffin III deal, St. Louis drafted Auburn tackle Greg Robinson 2nd overall in 2014, expecting him to protect their quarterbacks for a decade. Robinson had freakish size and athleticism, but struggled mightily with penalties, footwork, and technique. In 3 years with the Rams, he allowed a staggering 40 sacks and committed over 30 penalties, ranking among the league's least effective linemen. By 2017, the Rams traded him to Detroit for a late-round pick, and he later bounced through Cleveland before being suspended for performance-enhancing drugs. Off the field, his career collapsed further with legal troubles, including a federal arrest for marijuana trafficking in 2020. Drafted ahead of future All-Pros like Khalil Mack and Mike Evans, Robinson's inability to anchor the line made him one of the biggest busts of the 2000s. N'Keal Harry, New England Patriots, 2019, Round 1. The Patriots took Arizona State wideout N'Keal Harry with the final pick of the 1st round in 2019, hoping his size and contested catch ability would fill a glaring need at receiver. Instead, he became one of Bill Belichick's most glaring draft failures. Harry never developed separation skills, struggled with injuries, and failed to earn consistent snaps. Across 3 seasons in New England, he caught just 57 passes for 598 yards and 4 touchdowns. By 2022, the Patriots traded him to Chicago for a 7th-round pick. Compared to receivers taken shortly after, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, D.K. Metcalf, Harry's lack of production is striking. His inability to contribute in a Tom Brady-led offense highlighted just how far he was from NFL readiness. Bjorn Werner, Indianapolis Colts, 2013, Round 1. The Colts selected Florida State defensive end Bjorn Werner 24th overall in 2013, betting on his strong college production to boost their pass rush. Werner, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, was expected to be a disruptive edge defender. Instead, he struggled with speed, bend, and adapting to NFL tackles. Over 3 seasons, he played in 38 games, but managed only 6.5 sacks and 57 total tackles. By 2016, Indianapolis released him, and he never played in the league again. Werner later admitted he was overwhelmed by the transition to the NFL and lacked the athleticism to succeed at the highest level. His short-lived career, combined with being drafted ahead of players like DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Rhodes, underscores how costly the pick was for a team searching for defensive stability around Andrew Luck. Paxton Lynch, Denver Broncos, 2016, Round 1. After Peyton Manning's retirement, Denver traded up in 2016 to draft Memphis quarterback Paxton Lynch with the 26th pick, hoping he'd be the long-term answer. At 6 feet 7 inches with a strong arm and mobility, Lynch fit the prototype, but he never came close to NFL readiness. He started just 4 games across 2 seasons, posting a 1-3 record with 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Lynch struggled with accuracy, pocket awareness, and mastering the playbook, often looking overwhelmed in limited action. He failed to beat out journeyman Trevor Siemian and Brock Osweiler for the starting role, a clear sign of the coaching staff's lack of trust. By 2018, Denver released him, making Lynch one of the shortest-lived first-round quarterbacks of the modern era. He later bounced around practice squads and tried the CFL and XFL, but his NFL career never recovered. Nelson Agholor, Philadelphia Eagles, 2015 Round 1. The Eagles selected USC wideout Nelson Agholor 20th overall in 2015, hoping his speed and versatility would spark their passing game. Instead, drops and inconsistency defined his early years. In his first 2 seasons, Agholor caught just 59 passes for 648 yards and 3 touchdowns, often drawing frustration from fans for critical miscues. He finally broke out in 2017 with 768 yards and 8 touchdowns, helping Philadelphia win Super Bowl 52. But the resurgence was short-lived, his production dipped again, and by 2019, he was remembered more for high-profile drops than big plays. Though Agholor went on to have serviceable seasons with the Raiders and Patriots, he never lived up to his first-round billing in Philadelphia. Drafted ahead of Stephon Diggs and Tyler Lockett, his up-and-down tenure remains a disappointment. Jamal Anderson, Atlanta Falcons, 2007 Round 1. Atlanta drafted Arkansas defensive end Jamal Anderson 8th overall in 2007, expecting him to become a dominant edge rusher. At 6 feet 6 inches and 280 pounds, Anderson had starred in college with 13.5 sacks his junior year. But in the NFL, he never developed as a pass rusher. Anderson went sackless as a rookie and finished his 4-year stint in Atlanta with just 4.5 sacks total. Though he contributed against the run, his lack of pressure was glaring for a player taken so high. The Falcons declined his 5th-year option and moved on in 2011. Anderson had brief stops with the Colts and Bengals, but never topped 3 sacks in a season. Drafted ahead of stars like Patrick Willis, Darrelle Revis, and Marshawn Lynch, Anderson's failure to deliver on his physical tools left Atlanta searching yet again for defensive line help. L.J. Collier, Seattle Seahawks, 2019 Round 1. Seattle drafted TCU defensive end L.J. Collier late in the first round of 2019, hoping his size and versatility would bolster a pass rush that had lost Frank Clark. Instead, Collier struggled to make any impact. He was a healthy scratch for much of his rookie year and finished with just 3 tackles. In 3 seasons with the Seahawks, he recorded only 3 sacks and never established himself as a starter, spending more time on the bench than in the game. By 2022, Seattle declined his 5th-year option, and Collier departed after 45 career games with minimal production. His tenure is remembered as one of Seattle's weakest returns on a first-round investment. Justin Harrell, Green Bay Packers, 2007 Round 1. The Packers surprised many by selecting Tennessee defensive tackle Justin Harrell 16th overall in 2007. Harrell had the size and strength to anchor the interior, but injuries defined his career before it began. He entered the draft recovering from a torn biceps tendon and played sparingly as a rookie. Over the next 4 years, back problems, knee injuries, and repeated setbacks limited him to just 14 career games with 0 starts. Harrell recorded only 8 total tackles in his NFL career, one of the lowest outputs ever for a first-rounder. By 2011, Green Bay released him, ending a tenure remembered almost entirely for time spent on injured reserve. Drafting Harrell over players like Darrelle Revis and Lawrence Timmons magnified the mistake, leaving the Packers with no return from a rare first-round investment in their defensive line. DeAndre Baker, New York Giants, 2019 Round 1. The Giants traded up to draft Georgia cornerback DeAndre Baker 30th overall in 2019, expecting him to become a lockdown defender. Instead, Baker struggled from the start. As a rookie, he allowed a passer rating near 116 in coverage and showed lapses in effort. Things worsened in 2020 when Baker was arrested on armed robbery charges. Though charges were later dropped, the Giants released him before his 2nd season, ending his New York tenure after just 16 games. He briefly resurfaced with the Kansas City Chiefs but never developed into more than a depth player. Drafted ahead of contributors like Deebo Samuel and A.J. Brown, Baker's combination of poor play and off-field controversy makes him one of the shortest and most regrettable first-round tenures in Giants history. Vernon Butler, Carolina Panthers, 2016 Round 1. Fresh off a Super Bowl run, Carolina used the 30th pick in 2016 on Louisiana Tech defensive tackle Vernon Butler, hoping to add depth behind Kawan Short and Starlo Tulele. Butler never delivered on his first-round billing. Over 4 seasons with the Panthers, he started just 9 games, recording 55 tackles and 8 sacks, numbers more fitting for a late-round rotational player. Effort and consistency were frequent criticisms, and he often struggled to stay in shape. By 2020, Carolina declined his 5th-year option, and he signed with Buffalo, where he contributed little before bouncing out of the league. While not plagued by scandal or catastrophic injury, Butler's lack of impact stood out, especially as Carolina passed on future Pro Bowlers like Chris Jones and Xavier Howard. His quiet, unproductive tenure makes him one of the Panthers' most disappointing modern draft choices. Mike Williams, Buffalo Bills, 2002, Round 1. Looking to protect newly acquired quarterback Drew Bledsoe, the Bills used the 4th overall pick in 2002 on Texas tackle Mike Williams. At 6 feet 7 inches, 335 pounds, he was viewed as a franchise cornerstone for the offensive line, but turned out to be more like a traffic cone with legs. Williams became a cautionary tale of unfulfilled potential. He started 27 games in his first 2 seasons, but a move to left tackle exposed major weaknesses, slow footwork, weight issues, and lapses in effort. By 2004, he was routinely beaten by pass rushers, undermining the offense's stability. In 2006, Buffalo released him after just 4 seasons, an unusually short stint for such a high draft pick. Williams briefly resurfaced with Jacksonville and Washington, but never shook the bust label. Missing on Williams cost Buffalo both draft capital and critical protection for Bledsoe, and his inability to anchor the line makes him the team's biggest first-pick bust. Jonathan Sullivan, New Orleans Saints, 2003, Round 1. The Saints drafted Georgia defensive tackle Jonathan Sullivan 6th overall in 2003 after trading 2 first-round picks to move up. Sullivan entered the league with size and athletic upside, but quickly proved unmotivated and out of shape. As a rookie, he managed just 1.5 sacks, and his effort was questioned repeatedly by coaches. In 3 seasons with New Orleans, he started 16 games, but recorded only 1.5 sacks total and fewer than 100 tackles. By 2006, the Saints traded him to New England, where he never played another snap. Sullivan's lack of work ethic, combined with the heavy draft cost, makes him one of the franchise's worst investments. Missing out on future stars like Kevin Williams and Troy Polamalu only added to the sting of the failed pick. Adam Pacman-Jones, Tennessee Titans, 2005, Round 1. The Titans selected West Virginia cornerback Adam Pacman-Jones 6th overall in 2005, impressed by his speed and playmaking as both a defender and return man. On the field, he showed promise early, recording 4 interceptions and 3 punt return touchdowns in his 2nd season. But his career in Tennessee unraveled due to constant off-field trouble. Between 2005 and 2007, Jones was arrested or questioned by police multiple times, including a notorious 2007 Las Vegas strip club incident that left 3 people shot and led to his suspension for the entire season. Despite flashes of elite talent, Tennessee moved on after just 2 years of actual playing time. Jones eventually revived his career with the Bengals, earning a Pro Bowl in 2015. But his tenure with the Titans is remembered more for wasted potential and legal problems than on-field production. Roberto Aguayo, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 2016, Round 2. Tampa Bay shocked the league in 2016 by trading up to draft Florida State kicker Roberto Aguayo in the 2nd round, the highest pick used on a kicker in over a decade. Aguayo had been nearly automatic in college, hitting 88.5% of his field goals and never missing an extra point. But in the NFL, his accuracy collapsed. As a rookie, he connected on just 22 of 31 field goals, 71%, ranking dead last among qualified kickers, missing more kicks than a kid playing Madden with lag. Misses from short and mid-range distances shook his confidence, and by his 2nd preseason in 2017, the Buccaneers released him after he missed both a field goal and an extra point in the opener. Aguayo bounced briefly between practice squads but never kicked in another NFL game. His quick collapse remains a cautionary tale about the risks of overvaluing special teams players in the draft. Dwayne Haskins, Washington Commanders, 2019, Round 1. The Commanders drafted Ohio State quarterback Dwayne Haskins 15th overall in 2019 after a record-setting college season with 50 touchdown passes. Haskins was expected to develop into a pocket passer for a rebuilding franchise. Instead, he struggled with accuracy, preparation, and decision-making from the start. As a rookie, he completed just 58.6% of his passes with 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. By his second season, Washington benched him multiple times for poor performance and professionalism issues, including breaking COVID-19 protocols. Released in December 2020, less than 2 years after being drafted, Haskins' tenure ranks among the shortest for a first-round quarterback. He later signed with Pittsburgh as a backup before his tragic death in 2022. Drafted ahead of players like Montez Sweat and Brian Burns, Haskins' unfulfilled promise added another chapter to Washington's long quarterback struggles. Larry English, Los Angeles Chargers, 2009, Round 1. San Diego drafted Northern Illinois pass rusher Larry English 16th overall in 2009 to bolster their defense alongside stars like Sean Merriman. English had dominated in the MAC with 31.5 career sacks, but he never came close to replicating that production in the NFL, going from a big fish in a small pond to a minnow in the ocean. Injuries were constant. Foot and pectoral issues derailed multiple seasons. And when healthy, he lacked the explosiveness to pressure quarterbacks at the pro level. Across 5 seasons with the Chargers, he managed only 11 sacks and never started more than 9 games in a year. Released in 2014, he had a brief stint with Tampa Bay before fading out of the league. Drafted ahead of future standouts like Clay Matthews and Alex Mack, English is remembered as a costly miss that left San Diego without the pass rushing depth they badly needed. If you want to learn about more draft busts and sports drama, subscribe to follow along.